guys, what's going on? Today is Monday, it's about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I am done with work for the day, which is always a good feeling. This is going to be one of those rare weeks when I work Monday through Friday on day shifts, so that'll be a lot of fun. Tomorrow I'm orienting with one of the full-time case managers on what do you call it? The caseload that we're going to share. So that should be interesting. I know most of them already, but she's going to show me like how to, use the scheduling features of the charting software and stuff like that I don't usually have to do. So I was assigned 4 visits today, which is nothing really, and they were pretty far away, but close enough together that it wasn't that big of a deal. But when I called around to schedule my appointments with all of them, none of them wanted to be seen before 11 o'clock in the morning. So I had to kind of like, go through the schedule and figure out when to see who. One person wanted to be seen at 11, one person wanted to be seen at 12, one person wanted to be seen at 2, and one person wanted to be seen at 3. Which is easy enough, give or take, within a certain tolerance. But then while I was visiting my first or second patient, the boss calls me up and said that somebody else in the area that I was in needed a visit. So it worked out to be 5 patients, and I organized my time well enough that I was able to do it in the time that I had, which was 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, 5 patients. That's pretty good. And so with the driving time, that's about like a 15-minute drive between each one, and some of the drives were a little bit longer than that, but I made up for it in other ways, so that worked out good. I think I made an error in judgment the other day because I got my first homework assignment back in this ridiculous Western Civ class that I'm taking that wasn't a perfect score. I've been getting 100% on everything, and on this most recent assignment I got an 80% on. And the reason that I was given in the feedback was that, to loosely paraphrase, I did not supply quotations from the assigned reading as was asked for in the assignment. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have overlooked something like that. So I looked at the description of the assignment, and sure enough, the assignment did not ask for quotes. Unlike the assignment last week that said the best answers will use quotes. So of course I used quotes. And then for this assignment, it didn't say anything about that. And it was only for that one assignment that it said the best answers will use quotes. So that was the one assignment that I used quotes in. So when I got that feedback on this one that did not ask for quotes, and I looked at the syllabus, and the syllabus doesn't say anything about quotes either, I sent her a pretty strongly worded letter back because, I don't know, the cognitive dissonance was very difficult for me to bear, that she said that there was something in the instructions that was not in the instructions, and that was why I lost points. I'm getting more and more frustrated with these fly-by-night distance learning educators that are, slogging through these hundreds level classes with me. I mean, it's clear that a lot of them just really don't know how to use their courseware system. And that's not entirely their fault because it is Blackboard, and Blackboard is a piece of crap. It's not intuitive for me to use on the student end, so I can't imagine how much less intuitive it must be for the teachers who've got even more functions and features than the thing. But the mistake that I made was I sent her back a very strongly worded letter. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm really getting less and less convinced that this program, as it stands now, is a good use of my time, because I would have been able to skip all of these classes if my GPA was just 0.03 higher. So I was just thinking to myself the other day, why not just go back and retake the one class I got a C in, and then raise my GPA by 0.03, and then reapply. So I'm going to ask my advisor this week and see what she says. I mean, I know the school is just trying to milk people for money. I'm sure distance learning students are very lucrative. The only thing that costs them is, they're I'm sure overpriced and kludgy courseware, and then the labor of some teachers that they're probably overworking anyway. But they don't have to pay for the classroom space or anything, so I can see that would be a good deal for them. supposed to meet with HR tomorrow and go over, you know, my regular hours and my health insurance benefits and stuff, which I went over. I went over my, you know, what do you call it? The description of what kind of benefits I would be getting, and with some people who are familiar with having health insurance, because I've never actually had my own health insurance, to see if they thought it was a pretty good deal, and they said, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So I guess all of the preventative healthcare stuff, the copay is waived, and for vision, the copay is waived, and that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. So I'm just going to go on a shopping spree of all of the preventative measures I can come up with, and believe me, I can come up with quite a few, you know, being a nurse and all that. So I'm going to see how far I can stretch it, while absorbing as little radiation as possible, of course, because I think that's just silly. Ah, some great clouds today. I don't think I can switch back and forth between front-facing and back-facing, so I can't show you all these awesome clouds. You know, I started my day today, you know, I got to work right around 8 o'clock in the morning, which is difficult for me to do because I'm really not a morning person at all. I never have been. I always have a hard time getting to sleep, too. Maybe it's my rebellious nature. But, you know, I get to work and I got my assignment, and then I found out nobody really needed to be seen until 11. You know, I just kind of went home, went over some paperwork, and I had an extra large coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, and it just made me even more tired. I was just very, very sleepy, and when I was driving to my first visit of the day, I was thinking, oh my god, I have to take a nap. I can't believe I'm going out to work right now. I'm so sleepy. I got like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, maybe. And then when I went to see that first patient, you know, after that first patient contact, I was, you know, all thoughts of tiredness were just completely banished from my mind. And, you know, I was reflecting today that that's how it always is. It wasn't anything about that one particular patient. It wasn't a particularly exciting visit, but, you know, somebody was very pleasant and very fun to talk to, and I had to do another one of those pleural drainage procedures to drain out that, you know, pleural drainage. And that's always how it is for me. Every time, no matter how tired I am when I get into work, as soon as I start dealing with patients, I'm just no longer tired anymore. And that keeps up pretty well throughout the day. You know, like after that patient, I saw 4 more. And, you know, now that I'm driving home, I'm starting to feel a little bit tired again. But, you know, in all likelihood, I'm going to be, you know, doing my documentation and, you know, then going about my day and having dinner, and then I'll get a little boost from that. Because I just had breakfast when I was feeling tired, and, you know, back at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I skipped lunch. I usually skip lunch and eat a light breakfast. So I do get pretty hungry by dinner time, but I'm not feeling actually tired or fatigued. That seems to be a morning thing. Maybe I'll be able to get a sensible amount of sleep tonight. It's hard to tell. I've always had a bad habit of staying up late at night reading. I just can't put that book down. But I tell myself it's okay because I'm actually resting. But that's not true. But everybody was very pleasant and well adjusted today. I think, you know, people are reacting to me a lot differently now that I've shaved the beard off. I don't think it's necessarily always a good thing, but the patients seem to respond better to my appearance when I'm clean shaven. I guess that makes sense. I mean, that's the same kind of stuff they told us in salesmanship training. You know, that you always want to be clean shaven, or people with people who are clean shaven are perceived as more trustworthy, or something like that. There's some pretty good hygiene reasons to do it too, or asepsis, I should say. There's some good asepsis reasons to do it too. For one thing, I was never provided with those crazy headscarf masks that you're supposed to wear if you're doing a sterile procedure and you have to wear a mask and you have a beard. The regular masks that you use that have a little metal clip that you pinch down around your nose don't work if you have a beard. You know, which makes sense because it doesn't get a tight seal around your face. It's being lifted up off of your skin by the beard. So there's these crazy headscarf things instead that we wear. They look almost like you know, like some kind of Muslim headscarf, but it's kind of like a hat slash bonnet kind of thing. It's got these 2 thick like pleats almost that come down off of it, and they go across your face, and then you tie them back, and it covers your beard up nicely. And then I think you put a mask on top of that. I don't remember. It's been a long time since my operating room rotation, and I think I can say with confidence that I will never step into an operating room again voluntarily. You know, maybe if I need a surgery or something, I'll go to an operating room, but not on the job, not for work. It's because they're so boring. You know, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, the patients are unconscious, so, you know, that's not very stimulating. You know, I like being able to talk to patients. I like to assess them and stuff. And, you know, I probably wouldn't get to control what music was being played in the operating room, which is always very frustrating for me. And the job, or what I've seen of the job, seems very boring to me. I mean, sure, I would get to watch surgeries, which, you know, on one way of looking at it, are, you know, like the pinnacle of biomedical training and technology, you know, surgery. It all comes down to, like, that equipment in the room and that guy holding the knife. It's all very dramatic, yes. But as, you know, the circulating nurse or, you know, one of the other nurses, you're just counting the sponges go in and counting the sponges come out, or, you know, you're checking to make sure that the sterile field is being maintained, which is sort of an exercise in fastidiousness, a very important one, but one that I don't think I'm cut out for. The one fun thing that I'd heard about it came from our OR instructor in nursing school, and she told this story about being a circulating nurse in a operating room in like a busy Chicago, you know, hospital, inner city hospital. And there was this young surgical resident who, I guess, you know, so I'm told many surgical residents do, thought that he knew everything and could not be told anything by anyone. And when this woman, our instructor, saw him touch a part of his body below his waist, you know, which invalidates his status as being sterile, she said, "Oh, excuse me, sir, you've contaminated yourself. You have to go re-scrub." And so, you know, of course, this surgical resident was like, "What are you talking about? I'm still sterile. You don't know what you're talking about." So this nurse did what I now that I've heard this story, is what I would expect any sensible circulating nurse to do, was that she took off her gloves and then planted them firmly on the man's chest and said, "Okay, now you're contaminated. Go back and re-scrub." Which is great. That was totally her right to do, and I think a lot of us, when we heard that story, had a little inward cheer when we heard that. But that one entertaining anecdote aside, the job sounds very boring. I mean, the people who look like they have the really interesting jobs in the OR, you know, aside from the surgeons, of course, are the surgical technicians. I mean, they're the ones actually physically participating in the process of performing surgery. I guess there's a kind of nurse called a first assistant who can actually assist in surgery, but just can't put blade to skin. That's the one thing they can't do. But they can assist physically in other aspects of the surgery. But really, for the most part, nurses have very, very boring jobs in operating rooms. And because of the proprietary nature of a lot of the surgical techniques, you know, a lot of these techniques are the inventions of the surgeons doing them. They'll go to great lengths to make sure that no one with medical training can actually see the procedure unless they're learning it from that surgeon. That was my experience at a you know, big city hospital at in our state's capital. That you know, I saw two surgeries while I was in the OR. I saw an umbilectomy, which was pretty boring, and then I saw an aortic valve replacement, which theoretically should have been very interesting, especially considering that it only took 4 hours because of this special proprietary method that the surgeon had come up with. But he tilted the table so none of us could see it. Just him and a few of his medical students could see what was going on, and the surgical techs, but they were busy doing their own stuff. And it was the most boring 4 years of my life. I mean, it was kind of interesting when they hooked up the, you know, it was like an 86 or, you know, older-year-old lady getting an AVR. And, like, for the first couple of minutes when they hooked her up to the cardiopulmonary bypass, which is, like, this machine that diverts all of the blood away from the heart and the lungs and oxygenates it and dialyzes it and probably does a bunch of other things, too. You know, after that, the rest of it was just really boring. Oh, it was kind of interesting seeing the transesophageal echo, and watching the doctors kind of puzzle over it and ask other doctors to come in and take a look at it. It was kind of like it was something that none of them had ever seen before, but of course they have. But it was interesting to see them puzzle over and kind of look at the turbulence and stuff. But all in all, very boring. And you spend so much time on your feet just standing there. I don't mind being on my feet when I'm walking around. It's actually better for my back to be on my feet and walking around all day. But if I'm just standing there, it's so boring. And it hurts my back. So that was kind of a long digression, but I just felt compelled for some reason to explain to you why I hate the operating room. But I do like what I'm doing right now. I saw some really interesting places and talked to some interesting doctors on the phone, and I did what I thought were some really good assessments, but of course that will remain to be seen if they were good or not. I've got to remember to reorder some medications when I get home. A couple of people... Whoa! Wow, big cardboard box just flew at me from nowhere. It was empty, thankfully. That was kind of startling. I was supposed to pick up my sister and drive her home from work today, but somebody else picked her up. One of her friends drove her home, which is just as well because she got out of school at 3:45 and it's like 3:45 right now. So it's just as well. I could really use some lunch or dinner or something. I'm getting hungry. So one of the downsides of picking up regular shifts and getting these benefits that I've been chasing for, the whole 3 years that I've been a registered nurse is that I'm going to have to work Saturday and Sunday every week. And I have mentioned that before. I think I mentioned in a previous episode that I had been working Saturday and Sunday almost every week and that was okay. And I mean, it's a little bit different thing to be doing them, regularly as a per diem and then having being locked into that as being the thing that I always do. Because it's going to make, doing some things difficult on the weekends, like going to concerts and stuff like that, or hanging out with my friends who work Monday through Friday jobs on the weekend, and staying out late and stuff, and that's going to make some of that stuff difficult, but I really have to put getting regular hours and benefits and stuff like that, I really have to put that first, because of all of the preventative, healthcare things that I'm overdue for. But one of the good things about it is that there's 2 nurses that I work with who are going to be on maternity leave sometime this year or sometime next year. Sometime this year and next year. And when they go out on maternity leave, it's likely that I will be taking over their caseload, which is very exciting for me because that'll be an opportunity to not just share a caseload with somebody, but to actually have my own caseload that I'm going to case manage. And I'm very much looking forward to that because it's kind of what I've been doing this whole time, but I've been randomly, picking up visits from everybody else's caseloads, and now I'm just going to have my own caseload of, 12 or 15 people or so that I'm going to be able to use a little more creativity and figure out when they should be seen and stuff like that, and use a little bit more of my judgment and provide more continuity. That was one of the things that I really liked about the nursing home job, was that when I would work doubles or when I would work frequently throughout the week, I was able to establish continuity. There was somebody there who knew what was going on with this person, was able to detect changes rapidly, was able to accurately evaluate the effects of their medications and advocate for them effectively and communicate clearly to their families. And, that is something that I have been doing pretty well as a one-off, like coming to see somebody that I may not see again for a couple of months or ever. So I have to be very thorough and communicate with people really well. But one of the things I definitely notice at the nursing home is when you get used to those people and see them every day, it's such a huge advantage. It's, I guess, what in martial circles would call a force multiplier. But we're talking about, force of intellect rather than force of arms. But yeah, those are some good opportunities. People come in and out of any agency in this profession. People rotate in and out all the time, and it's just a matter of keeping my foot in the door and making a good impression on everybody. So if I, do start working full-time hours, which I think are going to start this week, I'm going to plan on staying at hospice for at least another year, at the very least, and getting my CHPN certification. Because, it's good to say that I've had a year in hospice, but it's even better to say I've had 2 years in hospice, a year of which was full-time. That's even better. I've already got 2.5 years or so of supervising a SNF, so that's pretty good. But that was per diem also. But I feel like I learned a lot from it because I was doing it like 50, 60 hours a week at a stretch and filling in for the DNS for weeks at a time when we didn't have one or they needed to take personal time. Maybe because I was the only one foolish enough to do it, but from my point of view, I was the only one who could do it because I was there all the time and I understood how the place worked. Unfortunately, with the last shake-up, they no longer saw it that way, because there was a whole new crew of people that were kind of focused more on their own petty power struggles and revenue and things like that, and didn't really seem to know very much about healthcare or ethics or dignity or any of that stuff. It's too bad, though. I'd like to go back to supervision someday, or nursing home supervision in particular. That and, well, I've been in the spirit of trying something new all the time. I really have to, get some time on a hospital unit. But I'm already at a hospice, and I'm already getting close to working full-time with benefits there. So really what it comes down to is I hate applying for stuff. I've always hated applying for stuff, so every job that I've had, I would just sort of refuse to acknowledge that it's time for me to find another job and that this job is not working in my best interests. A lot of the time it's because of stubbornness. Well, in this job it's usually because of stubbornness or loyalty. In previous jobs it was just because I hated applying for things. So I would always wear out my welcome, end up getting thrown out instead of leaving gracefully. That's fine. I don't mind. I like causing trouble. As long as it's for a good cause, if I'm convinced I'm in the right, I will very rarely back down. And it's kind of liberating to be in the position that's like, oh, well, I should have quit this job a year ago, so you can fire me if you want, but this is what I think is right. I don't see that happening with this job, though. Everybody at hospice is, just so laid back and so compassionate and really with it. I worry about the social workers, though. I've seen so many great social workers come and go. I just had one drive up to me today, and, just out of the blue, this isn't somebody I even know very well, but somebody who's a fan of my clinical note writing, just told me that the caseload was too much for her. She couldn't take it, and she's stressed out, and she's dreading coming to work every day. And it's making me wonder, what's causing that? The social workers that I've met there are brilliant. They're amazing people. They're great counselors. They know a lot about a lot of things, and they're very therapeutic people to be around. So why are they leaving? Why are they leaving in droves? Some of my social work heroes have come and gone already in the first year of my being here. And I've kind of overheard a little bit of their kvetching. I've heard a little bit of their complaints, but I don't really understand what's at the heart of it. Just today was the clearest indication I got of it, of somebody complaining about how stressful the caseload was. From what I've heard, social work caseloads are much larger than nursing caseloads. In a situation where a nurse might have, I don't know what it is exactly for my agency, but just to give you a rough idea if you're not familiar with the difference, caseload where a nurse might have 12 to 15 patients, a social worker might have 30 or 40 maybe. And their suggested visit frequency is once a month, where ours is once a week at minimum, and oftentimes more. But the things that don't require a visit and the family processes that they're going through and the psychosocial things that they're going through can get pretty out there. They can get really intense and very difficult to deal with. So I guess I can see how some of them would get overwhelmed. I don't know what the solution is, but it's too bad that they don't seem to be retaining what I think are just some really amazing people. But that is a force that will work to my advantage as well, because it's the same with the nurses. Nurses get burnt out too, and eventually one of them is going to move on to some other job, and when that happens, Maybe that's happened already. Maybe that's why I'm getting full-time shifts now. Huh. I didn't see any staff announcements. Maybe I'm replacing somebody. I don't know. Well, that's about it for me. I'm gonna go take care of some business, but you guys keep it real, hang in there, and